if we talk about the characteristics and the properties of sigma and pi bond, that is sigma bond, pi bond. First thing, that sigma bond is a first forming bond, because first the shearing will be on x-axis, so it is a that bond that makes an x-axis will be a sigma bond, so that will be a first forming bond. And pi bond will make bond after sigma bond, means on y-axis, and then z-axis it will make pi bond. So after sigma bond it will make a bond, that will be a pi bond. Another thing, another point, that it is more overlap. How overlap means it is more overlap or more shared bond, because that is x-axis and that is x-axis of another atom. So when they make bond, so they can easily overlap into each other, so that is more overlapping. But if we talk about pi bond, that cannot completely overlap, because that is when two x-axis will overlap, so it can completely overlap. But because of the y-axis, because of the z-axis, because of the x-axis, the y-axis and z-axis cannot completely overlap, because x-axis is in between them, so it cannot completely overlap, because the pi bond cannot completely overlap, means on y-axis and z-axis cannot completely overlap, but sigma bond can completely overlap. Another point, that it is a strong bond because it can completely overlap. Because of the overlapping, it has more overlapping, so it is a strong bond. And here it is a weak bond, because it cannot completely overlap. Another point, another characteristic, that it has a lower energy level, because it can completely overlap. So when it can completely overlap, so the energy will be low. That is why in sigma bond the energy is low. If we talk about pi bond, so there will be high energy, because it does not completely overlap, so it has a high energy. There will be a more energy than sigma bond. Another point, if we talk, it is a local bond. Local bond means it has a less energy, lower energy level, so it has a definite position, or we can say fixed position. That it is a local bond means it will not move here and there, because it can completely overlap, so it is fixed in its position, it has a definite position, so that is why sigma bond is called the local bond. And if we talk about pi bond, it is not the local bond, because it has high energy level, and it is not completely overlap, so it does not have definite or fixed position, because it cannot completely overlap, so it has more energy, so it will move here and there, so that is why it is not the local bond, and sigma bond is a local bond. So that was all about the characteristics of sigma and pi bond.